Hi homebodies, welcome back to my channel, Catskill Mountain Homebody. My name's Amy, and today I thought I would start filming in my bedroom. Up here's Scouty. Say hi, Scouty. Say hi, Scouty. Up here comes Chipper Bear. There he is, the king of the castle. All right, anyway, I thought I would start filming in my bedroom because it is a very, very stormy day here in the Catskill Mountains of New York. So I thought we'd take a look out the window. Perfect day for cooking. And we are gonna cook a delicious Italian pesto tomato chicken that I'm winging. I don't even have a recipe. I'm just gonna wing it because I'm so great at cooking. No, I'm not that great. All right, you ready? Oh my goodness, look how pretty it is. I don't even care that it's raining. Look at the color of this tree right here. It's so orangey. Even though it's raining, it's still so beautiful here in the Catskill Mountains. And this is the view from my bedroom. All right, I'm gonna turn off the lights in here. We're gonna head down to the kitchen and start cooking a delicious dinner that I think is gonna be delicious. I hope it will be. I hope it will be anyway, so I'll meet you down in the kitchen. All right, I'm back down in my kitchen. A few days ago, Joe pulled a lot of the tomatoes out of our garden. So let me show you how many tomatoes I have. And that's why I'm gonna make this recipe, which is gonna use up some of my garden tomatoes. But I have all of these ripe tomatoes here in this basket. This is packed full of ripe tomatoes. And then I have on my butcher block table, these are tomatoes that may not be as ripe as the ones over there, but I have lots of tomatoes. These were actually all green when I put them in here, and a lot of them have started turning red. So we're going to be using a bunch of these tomatoes to make a delicious chicken and pesto dinner that I'm just kind of like throwing together, but I don't have a formal recipe that I'm following. I'm kind of just like figuring it out, but I'm sure it'll be delicious, and I'm going to make it with some pasta. And it'll become kind of similar to some of my other recipes. So join me for a rainy day, cook with me video. I'm back in the kitchen, everyone. I have begun preparing this, I guess I can call it an October chicken dinner. An October chicken extravaganza. No, doesn't really sound right. By the way, do you like my pumpkin outfit? You'll probably remember this sweatshirt. I wore it in one of my Halloween videos. I think the one where I do a craft, I was wearing the sweatshirt. I have my vintage Halloween earrings on that my mom bought me, probably in the 90s. Why not? If it's a rainy October day in the Catskill Mountains, take out your best Halloween attire and jewelry and have fun, because I love Halloween. All right, so let me show you what I've pulled. And again, I'm kind of making up this recipe as I go. This isn't like a formal recipe that I found somewhere. I'm kind of like combining different recipes that I've made over time. So yeah, this is like a Catskill Mountain Homebody original recipe. Chicken and tomato, garlic, and spaghetti. It's gonna be delicious. Of course it is. All right, let's see what we got. All right, I have a glass baking pan that I have lined with tin foil. I have my trusty salt and pepper shakers, my olive oil, which I use in almost every recipe. I'm gonna use some chicken broth. I'm gonna use a little thyme, a little bit of basil, and a little bit of onion powder. I have a box of spaghetti. I'm probably gonna use half this box because it's just me and Joe. And I'm making 5 thin chicken breasts, which I am defrosting in my sink right now. I have already prepared, see, here's all my tomatoes. I have already prepared 3 cloves of chopped garlic, and this is about 5 to 6 cups of chopped tomatoes from our garden. And if you are new to my channel, you don't know, but Joe and I experimented with a garden for the first time this year. I documented it in my videos that I recorded over the summer, so go check them out. I'll link the playlist down below. I'll also put the recipe that I came up with for this recipe in the description. I might add some butter to this recipe when I put it, before I put it in the oven. I'm going to start this recipe in a frying pan. So I got my frying pan out. I'm going to put some olive oil in this frying pan, and I'm going to sear the chicken. So give me a minute and I'll get the chicken prepped and I'll show you the chicken, and then we're going to get to frying. And then I'm going to deglaze the pan with some chicken broth, and we're going to cook down some of the tomatoes. This is going to be wonderful. It's going to be delicious. I'm sure it'll be delicious. All right, I got the olive oil heating in the frying pan. I got the chicken prepped with a little olive oil, salt, pepper, and onion powder. We're gonna be searing the chicken, not too long, maybe 5 minutes on each side till they get a little browned. We're gonna put them then into our baking dish. Then I'm gonna deglaze the frying pan with some chicken broth, and I'm going to fry the tomatoes and let some of the juices, because the tomatoes are very juicy. I don't want it to be too watery, this pasta. So I'm going to fry the fresh tomatoes just a few minutes and let some of the juices cook off in the chicken broth, and kind of let the chicken broth flavor the tomatoes even more. Then I'm going to quickly saute the garlic, maybe 1 minute. And then I'm going to pour the tomato mixture over the chicken. I'm going to put a little bit of butter, maybe a tablespoon of butter, on top of the chicken and the tomato mixture. I'm going to bake it for about 25 minutes to 30 minutes until the chicken has an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the meantime, I'm going to boil some pasta. Now, I am also going to put a little basil and thyme on the tomatoes as I'm sauteing it. And I think that's what I'm going to do. That's my plan. Again, I'm not really following a recipe. I'm kind of winging it. I'm just trying. I like tomatoes. I like garlic. I like chicken. I like pasta. I like these herbs. You don't need a written recipe all the time. Trust yourself. Now, the other thing I'm going to do that I didn't mention, I didn't pull it out yet because it's in the fridge, is I am going to add a little bit of basil pesto to this. And I'm not making my own pesto. I bought the pre-made kind. I know I'm cheating. But you know what? I don't make everything scratch because I work and I don't have time to make everything scratch. So, but I do have time to make dinner. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. So I bought this basil pesto from a company called, I guess it's called Romano. All right. So I am going to put a little bit of pesto on top of the tomato and chicken concoction that I'm making, and then I'm going to put it in the oven and we're going to bake that, and it's going to be like a basil tomato sauce that I'm going to be putting on top of the pasta. Again, if you know what flavors you like, you can experiment and make your own recipe. And it is a little scary because you don't really know if it's going to be good, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. That's my motto. So give it a try. Don't tell yourself you can't cook. I tell you guys that in a lot of my videos. A lot of people talk themselves out of cooking because they tell themselves, I can't cook, I can't cook. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell yourself you can't cook, you're not going to cook. Everybody can learn how to cook. There's no secret talent that you have to be born with to cook. Practice makes perfect. So try it. Pull out some recipes that you like, or pull out some ingredients that you like and whip together a dinner. I hope this tastes good. I'll let you know, of course, in the description how it goes. But you all can cook. Don't tell yourself you can't cook. I'm telling you. Amy from Catskill Mountain Homebody is telling you can cook. All right, so my oil is getting hot, and I'm about ready to sear the chicken. So let's try that. Alexa, set a timer for 4 minutes.
4 minutes, starting now.
If you want to learn how to cook, if you love farmhouse style, if you like decorating, consider subscribing to my channel. I cover all those things in my channel, and I do feature my fur babies very often, Chipper and Scout. They're snuggling with their daddy upstairs right now while I'm cooking dinner. However, they are featured in a lot of my videos, and they are my babies, my fur babies, after Julius, my son. So, hey, subscribe, join us. And I'm going to be showing you Italian recipes from my family and decorating around the house for different holidays. We're going to have fun. So join me in the beautiful Catskill Mountains. Alright, so while that's cooking, you'll notice that sometimes the chicken sticks to the bottom of the pan. It doesn't matter, because we're going to deglaze the pan with some chicken broth, and I'm going to be scraping up all those little bits that stuck to the pan, and that's all going in the sauce. All that flavor is not going to be lost. So it's okay if the chicken sticks a little bit to the pan, that's okay. We're going to deglaze it, we're going to cook the tomatoes in it. All the flavor will be in there, in the sauce, in the chicken. So it's not gonna hurt anything. And you'll see that the chicken has a nice brown color to it, but the chicken's not cooked, it's just seared. We're gonna cook it in the oven. So I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're gonna bake this in the oven a little while. And these are almost done. So these are the other two, they're on the second side. And once these are done, I'm going to deglaze the pan with the chicken broth, and we're going to scrape the bottom. Then I'm going to cook the tomatoes. Oh, it's time to take them out. Alright, so my chickens are all seared. Now I'm going to put a half a cup of chicken broth. This is a half a cup of chicken broth into my hot pan. And while that's deglazing, I'm going to scrape the bottom and clean the bottom of the pan. Get all that goodness into my sauce. Clean the pan looks. Now I'm going to put the tomatoes I chopped earlier into this pan too. So we're going to take these tomatoes and we're going to put them into the pan to cook down a little bit. I'm going to salt these a little bit, about a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm also going to add a little bit of basil and thyme to these tomatoes while they're cooking. And we're only going to cook these tomatoes about maybe 5 to 7 minutes. You see how it's really boiling? That's what I want. Because I want a lot of the liquid to boil down and the tomato flavor to be more intense. So I don't want it to be too soupy. So I'm gonna let it keep cooking. I'm actually probably gonna end up cooking this about 10 minutes. And when it looks thicker and less watery, I'm going to add the garlic for a few minutes and let the garlic cook up and get into the tomato flavor. But I'm only going to saute the garlic about, a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Then I'm going to pour this over my chicken, and I'm going to add some pesto and a little bit of butter. And then we're going to bake this uncovered for about a half an hour. So I want this to be less, see how much water's in there? I want this to be much less watery. So we're going to let this cook down a little further. Notice I've already put up a pot of water for my pasta, and that's heating on high. This is heating on about medium high. This isn't really taking me very long at all. We can whip up this dinner. Guess what? I worked today. I had a full day of work today, and I was going to go to the store and maybe get something quick to make, but I thought, you know what? I have all these tomatoes from the garden that I need to use up, and I have chicken in the freezer, so why don't I just whip up a fresh tomato pasta dish? And it's going to be delicious. I know it's going to be delicious because every single one of these things have a great flavor. All right, so I'll show you how this looks when we cook it down a little bit more. All right, this is really boiling now, and it's thickened up a little bit. I'm going to add my chopped garlic to the tomato mixture. Kitchen already smells great. It smells like tomato, garlic, olive oil. How can you go wrong with all those flavors? Now, because this is very saucy still, I'm going to bake it uncovered so that it evaporates a little bit more in the oven. And I think I'm going to put the pesto into this pot before I pour it over the chicken, just so it's mixed in very well. So let's add the pesto. I have a half a cup of pesto. I didn't use that whole container. I only used a half a cup that I'm going to add to this tomato mixture right now. This is ready for the oven, but I'm going to put about a tablespoon of butter that I cut up over the top of this, just to make it even more rich. Not a lot, just a little bit. I'm going to bake this uncovered for about a half an hour. All right, so my plan, that chicken's going to bake uncovered in the oven for about a half an hour. The chicken will be fully cooked by then, and some of the juices will evaporate more because it's uncovered. In the meantime, I am boiling water. I'm going to make a half a box of thin spaghetti. You can make any pasta you wanted, whatever pasta you have. You're not going to need a whole pound of pasta though. You're only going to want to use a half a box of pasta or half a pound of pasta. And the pasta is going to absorb all of the juices and all of the deliciousness of the sauce that you made. If you don't like pesto, omit the pesto. Just make it with garlic and tomatoes, chicken broth, olive oil, and the spices. Do what you like. If you don't like pesto, don't use pesto. Again, I'm kind of winging this recipe, so I'm just adding what I like, and I like pesto. So I thought that would be a good flavor to add into it. So I've cleaned up while I was waiting for the tomatoes to fully cook. I am going to finish cleaning. I'm going to set the table. And by the way, Joe and I are going to have leftovers with this meal because it's going to make a lot. Now, my other plan is to cut the chicken up. So I'm going to let the chicken sit for 5 minutes when I pull it out of the oven and let the juices settle. And then I'm going to pull the chicken out and chop it. And then add it in, back in with the sauce and add pasta to it, the cooked pasta to it. And then blend that all together. And then I'm going to top it off with some Romano cheese. I have a little bit of mozzarella cheese I'm going to mix in it too, only because I have leftover mozzarella cheese. You don't have to do that. Again, add what you like. Add what you like. But it is going to be, I know it's going to be a delicious dinner, and I'm really hungry. So I'm hoping, I can't wait for dinner to be done. All right, so I'll meet you back here when I pull it out of the oven, and the pasta will be hopefully cooking by then. Look at how Halloween-y it looks outside. It's dark and gloomy and foggy and delicious. And look at all the pretty colors on the trees. It's really spectacular, even in the rain. I love it. What a perfect day for some tomato chicken pasta. I just love this time of year. I love it. It's so cozy and fun. All right, so I have my pasta boiling in the pot. I'm gonna give it a little stir. A little stir. There it is. She's not done yet. And when that is done, I'm gonna drain it. And then my chicken and tomatoes will be ready shortly. I am going to pull the chicken out, mix the pasta in, and let the chicken sit for a few minutes, and then I'm going to chop up the chicken and serve it up with some grated Romano cheese. I had a little bit of mozzarella left over from another recipe, so I'm just going to add this to the tomato mixture when I pull the chicken out. You know, I want to use up my stuff. I don't want to waste. I don't want to waste my tomatoes, my garlic, my mozzarella, my pesto. I'm going to use it all. Use what you have. And I'm going to show you what it looks like, but first I'm going to drain my pasta.